So here's an unpopular opinion from a therapist. I actually don't think that therapy is for everybody. In fact, I think that therapy can actually fail people. So people can't fail therapy, but therapy can fail people. Now, that is not to say that I don't think that therapy cannot be helpful. I think it is wildly helpful. I would not be a mental health therapist if I didn't see positive results for my clients. Welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Mallory Grimsey. I am a real life mental health therapist. So if you're interested in hearing about how to cope and connect, you definitely want to hit that subscribe button. But otherwise, let's jump right into it. There's a few different factors that you want to consider about why therapy might not be working. I highly recommend starting first with a vibe check. Based on your gut and the vibe that you are getting when you are in therapy, out of therapy, the connection that you have with your therapist, is that vibe there? Are you guys connecting? Is there mutual trust and respect? Without that, you're not going to have what we call a strong therapeutic alliance, which is highly necessary for therapy to be effective. Now, there are plenty of therapists, so just because you're not vibing with one therapist, you might want to try again with another therapy style. If you can imagine, I'm actually not everybody's cup of tea. I know, wild, right? The other thing you want to factor in is specialty. You want to check in, does your therapist's skill set and expertise match up with your concerns? Now, you might not always know from the get-go what sort of specialization you might benefit from, and that is quite all right. Part of our job as therapists is to assess our own expertise and level of skill, and when is it appropriate to refer out to someone or some other program that could be more helpful or beneficial. Now, that is not to say that you are working with a bad therapist. I hate that. It's actually a really good sign if a therapist is like, hey, I've been noticing that you're really struggling with this particular issue, and that's not something that I tend to do my best work with, but I know of another colleague who does specialize and does really great work with that, and so let me link you up with them. That's a really positive thing. It's purely professional. It's not a personality thing. Trust me, most of us I love all my clients. I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I really, really love and appreciate and care for my clients. So I really want them to get the best care that they deserve. Another thing that you want to factor in is timing. So therapy does require effort and a time and financial commitment. If for some reason your schedule or your priorities have shifted and therapy is not something that makes sense to keep on your plate right now, as long as there are not any catastrophic safety concerns or risks, most of us would be quite all right with you moving on from therapy. Our goal as therapists is not to keep you in therapy forever. It makes us feel really, really great when you are ready to move on from therapy. We want to celebrate that with you. And especially nowadays, trust me, we are not hurting for new clients. If anything, you freeing up that space could be helping somebody else. Though if you really do need and want that therapy, you might have to work with and talk with your therapist about scheduling demands and requests and see where either of you guys could connect to make that work and happen. Readiness is another big factor to consider. So as somebody who happens to work with the under 18 crowd and a little above that, readiness is a big factor. Oftentimes a parent or a family member who wants to pay for and bring the person to therapy is very ready for that person to participate in therapy. But if the person who is coming to therapy is not ready for that level of work, we can't force them. In fact, I actually think forcing therapy, again, unless there's a safety concern, safety trumps all of this. If there's not an imminent safety concern, I think that forcing somebody to do something that they're not ready for will, one, make them not want to engage with the help when it's offered when they are ready because they've already had a bad experience. And two, it could really impact their ability to trust themselves and others. So please factor that in, that you can still continue to have those conversations. And if you're ready and your parents are not ready, definitely check out one of my other videos about how to talk to your parents about your mental health. And note that at a certain point, you should be of an age or of a financial status where you can seek your own therapy help. When it comes to therapy, everybody has different expectations. And so it's really important to keep those realistic. I just made a funny shorts video the other day about the point of view of your first therapy session. Some people come into therapy expecting that like 1 or 2 sessions, they're gonna be cured, life will be wonderful and fantastic. And some people do get speedy results. In my experience, usually the first 2 sessions are just about getting to know each other and kind of getting that mutual baseline. It would be rare to expect to only come into a therapist's office for a handful of times and expect you to achieve all of your goals. Therapy is deep healing work. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of effort. We know when creating new habits or mindsets, it takes a while for those to kind of lock in and get solid. There are what we call 5 stages of change, and depending on where you are in that process is going to impact how quickly, and I say quickly because that's relative, you will be ready to move on from therapy. We also know that sometimes life happens. If life is happening and what you wanted to get from therapy has shifted or changed because your values, your priorities, your goals, whatever has shifted or changed, that's okay too. We want to hear about it and we want to help support you. So please, please, please talk to us. The other thing about why therapy might not be working or helping is that the therapist's point of view, based on the information that they have from what's happening in and out of the therapy session, is very different from the client's point of view. We are not mind readers. I know, surprising. If you are not sharing or telling us an accurate representation, we can't know what we don't know. We only know what you bring to the session. We can certainly suspect or assume or ask questions to gather information, but if your therapist experience and your experience as a client isn't quite matching up, sometimes simply just having a conversation about why or how that is really important too. There was actually a really cool experiment that a therapist did once where he kept a journal reflection on what his experience of the therapy session was and what his top takeaways were. And he asked his clients to do the same. And then they shared the results with each other. And oftentimes what the therapist considered the most important part of the therapy session was wildly different than what the client took away. That's totally normal and to be expected. Think about when you've had a conversation with a friend and you thought you guys were totally on the same page and you guys parted ways and you met back up later to check in and talk about it and you were like, wait, that's not what I said or that's not what I meant. That's what happens in therapy too. So some of the therapy process is talking and claiming accountability and responsibility on both ends, because therapists can screw up too. Having that conversation to be like, oops, my intention was this. I understand the impact was that. Let's figure this out and how we can be clearer and check in with each other a little bit better moving forward. After you've figured out, where the therapy process just is not working for you and you still want to have a conversation with your therapist, which I highly recommend. I think you should definitely talk to your therapist about this. I highly recommend that you use the acronym FAST to remember these 4 different areas when you're talking to your therapist. So the first area that you want to consider is staying fair to yourself and to your therapist. You want to make sure to not assume and not pass judgment. Most therapists are pretty well-intentioned and want good for our clients. I say most because I can't speak for all of us. It kind of lines up that the majority of people would willingly and knowingly go into a helping profession because they actually want to help people. So going in there with the idea that they don't like you or that they want you to fail, it's probably not going to be fair to you or the therapist in that conversation. So just keep that in mind. In being fair to yourself, you want to make sure that you are coming in well prepared. I really recommend jotting down some notes. Sometimes we can have, they call it like white coat syndrome. It used to be like back in the day when you'd go and see the doctor and they were wearing a white coat. But for some reason, we can kind of get a little anxious and forget what we were going to say when we're around people whose opinions we care about, or if we feel that they have power or authority over something in our life circumstances. So with keeping that in mind, you can jot down some notes on your phone, on a piece of paper. You can even write it in a letter or an email and bring that with you. That's fine too. I would also recommend to come prepared with some coping strategies. So y'all know I love to drink water as a favorite coping strategy of mine. So I almost always have something that's keeping me hydrated, especially in my therapy sessions with my clients. So you can do that too, or whatever coping strategy is going to work well for you. The second area that you want to consider is when it comes to apologies or apologizing. So we happen to live in a culture that either encourages over apologizing and claiming responsibility for things that are not within our control, or under apologizing because we feel embarrassed, like our intention matters more than the impact of whatever it is that happened. So I highly encourage you to check in with yourself. One, is there something that I am responsible for or need to be accountable for, and perhaps own some responsibility for the hurt that I've inflicted? If so, that is an appropriate time to apologize. Or is this more about, I feel like I need to take care of the therapist's feelings, which please don't worry about us. We are well taken care of. It's our responsibility ethically, legally, professionally to take care of our own feeling experience and not let that enter into the therapy room. So don't worry about our feelings, to an appropriate degree. Just don't come in like wanting to be a jerk to us. But if it happens, it happens. We can talk about it. But yeah, don't go out of your way to be a jerk. And if you are, apologize for that. Consider that too. You don't want to come in and say sorry, this isn't working, da da da, and then not actually mean that you're sorry, or claim responsibility appropriately, or outsource blame to somebody else. There's usually several factors that go into therapy not helping, so putting the full responsibility on yourself or the therapist probably isn't healthy either. Though that being said, you definitely want to stay sticking up for your values. Knowing what is important for you, what your goals are, going back to that treatment plan that we've talked about, that's going to be what guides how therapy is working and what's working and not working with therapy, or if it's time to move on to a different area of help. And that's quite all right. So sticking to your values, it helps you stay focused on the intention, the purpose, and why you're even having this discussion. At the end of the day, while it is really, really great to have a healthy therapeutic relationship or reliance with your therapist, that is not the end goal of therapy. Therapy is helping you achieve your life goals. And we know as therapists going into this that this is a very different kind of relationship. We're not going to take it personally if you're like, you know what, I'm done with therapy, or you know what, I think I need a different sort of help. That's good. That's growth. We want self-advocacy. So definitely stick to your values. And if you find yourself getting off track, check in on, why am I having this discussion and what is the outcome? Not the outcome, but the outcome that you want. So what is the outcome that you want from this conversation? And that will help bring you back to sticking to your values and not getting sidetracked into something else. Do you want to tell the truth? Please don't lie to us. It would be very, very hard to have us change our opinion of y'all. I can't speak for all therapists, but I love all my clients and their families. I think that they are superhumans. I think the fact that y'all show up each and every week and do your darndest is amazing. It takes a lot of guts and gusto to be vulnerable and be real, even in a therapy situation. So I'm proud of y'all. Your therapist is probably proud of you too. So please tell the truth. We're not mind readers. We can't know what we don't know. Be honest with us and let us know if there is a certain struggle that you have felt embarrassed about talking about, or there is an inner truth that you haven't said yet, or if we have done or said something that's offensive or offending to you, please let us know. Oftentimes, what gets in the way of this is clients are worried about showing up angry in therapy. They think that based on other experiences with that we're going to be really harsh or mean or whatever. And to tell you the truth, I actually love it when my clients get angry in therapy. In fact, if you want to hear about a time that one of my clients exploded in therapy and how it was awesome, definitely check that out over here. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you for watching.